Hi there, and welcome to Oaklandside 510. I'm Tasneem Raja, editor-in-chief of the Oakland Side, Oakland's independent nonprofit newsroom. Later in this episode, I'll talk with our road safety reporter, Jose Fermoso, about the long-standing push for a new BART station in Oakland and how some local design students could be helping this project get closer to reality. But first, we're going to kick things off with recent Oaklandside headlines on the most up-to-date reporting from our newsroom. That's right, we're doing things a little differently today. Let's go ahead and get into those headline stories. First off, there is a new home for young writers in Uptown. Writopia Lab, a national creative writing nonprofit, just opened its first Oakland location inside Oakstop on Broadway. Kids as young as 4 can take workshops in everything from short story writing to poetry to Dungeons and Dragons style role play, all led by working, published writers. To celebrate the launch, the organization is giving out scholarships to East Bay students. You'll need to move fast because applications close in early September. Next, an immigrant rights group says ICE used the parking lot at Eastmont Mall to transfer someone in custody last month before taking them to the agency's San Francisco Processing Center. The mall is also home to a health clinic that serves a lot of immigrant and low-income East Oakland residents, as well as an Oakland police substation. City police say outside agencies like ICE will typically give them a heads up before operating within city limits, but they wouldn't tell us whether that happened this time. Immigrant advocates are asking anyone who spots ICE activity in the area to report it to their rapid response hotline. On to election news. Alameda County's June elections went off without a hitch, or at least without any of the meltdowns that the county has struggled with in years past. The county's brand new registrar of voters, Cynthia Cornejo, says her office sped up ballot counting and got results out faster than before. She's also flagging a few fixes for November, including clearer language on election night that she says will help squash some common confusions. This is potentially good news ahead of a bigger test this fall. Oakland's mayoral race and several council and school board seats are all on the ballot in November. More ICE news. A member of the beloved Oakland cultural group Samba Funk has now spent 8 months in ICE detention after showing up to what he thought was a routine immigration check-in. Leandro Oliveira Javier came to the U.S. from Brazil seeking asylum, got a job with the arts organization, and was doing everything right, according to his friends. He has been held at a detention facility in Bakersfield ever since, while his case winds through an immigration court system that is short on judges. His friends and bandmates have launched a campaign calling for his release, and he wrote and recorded a song about the experience from inside detention. In road safety news, the city has now pinpointed dozens of crosswalks where people are most likely to get hit by a car in Oakland. The kinds of crosswalks without a stoplight or a flashing beacon to slow drivers down. Oakland's transportation department just applied for a multi-million-dollar grant to install simple, cheap fixes at these intersections. Things like flexible posts that narrow the lanes and make it harder for drivers to swerve around someone who's crossing. 2 of the worst spots are already getting upgrades this year. The rest are waiting on funding. In our story, you can check out a map and a database to see exactly where these crosswalks are located in Oakland. Meanwhile, firefighters from Oakland's Engine 29 are getting some love from an unexpected source, PETA, the animal rights organization. After putting out a car fire in East Oakland, the crew noticed a pigeon in distress nearby, apparently suffering from smoke inhalation. So they did what anyone would do. They gave the bird a tiny oxygen mask and they nursed it back to health right there on the street. The video of this went viral worldwide, and now PETA is sending the department a framed award and a box of vegan chocolates to say thank you. Now, some good news on the immigration front to close us out. Chantal Morales Rojas, the Oakland woman detained by ICE while trying to board a flight home from a Denver trip, is free. She was released on bond after 10 days at a Colorado detention facility that has recently been in the news for a tuberculosis outbreak. Her lawyer says she's still pursuing a lawsuit against ICE, arguing she was arrested without a warrant and never should have been detained in the first place. For now, though, she's headed back to Oakland. That's it for headlines. We'll link to all of this reporting in the show notes. Before we get into our main story today, a quick message from today's episode sponsor. Oakland Tech Week is right around the corner, and the holiday season isn't far behind. If you're searching for the perfect venue for your next meetup, retreat, holiday party, or community event, check out WeWork Oakland. With 2 unique locations, flexible event spaces, and a vibrant community, it's a great place to connect, collaborate, and celebrate. Learn more by reaching out to your local WeWork team or visiting WeWork.com. Today, I'm talking with one of our reporters about a gap in Oakland's BART map, a stretch of East Oakland that the trains fly right over with no station in sight. For years, neighbors in the San Antonio neighborhood, a couple miles southeast of the lake, have been pushing to change that. And recently, that dream got a lot more vivid thanks to a group of design students who drew up what a station there could actually look like, creek and all. Jose Fermoso is here to talk about it. Welcome, Jose.
Thanks for having me.
So you've been following this story for a couple of years now. Set the scene for us. What are we talking about?
We're talking about a stretch of East Oakland where BART just skips. If you look at the BART map and the actual physical map, there's a gap between the Lake Merritt station and the Fruitvale station. And the spot right in the middle, which is the intersection of 14th Avenue and East 8th Street, is a strange kind of in-between place. There's an old Burger King there at a corner. There's a hillside of grass that nobody really uses. Trains fly right over it, and nobody gets off there.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out the distance between the Fruitvale and Lake Merritt BART stations is the longest length between any 2 urban stations in the system at almost 3 miles.
And that gap isn't an accident. You reported that this is tied to how BART was originally built.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole story there. The neighborhood has for decades been home to Latin American immigrants, and more recently, in the last few decades, to an influx of Asian immigrants as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the argument residents make is that BART's original planners in the 1960s designed the system to move commuters from the white suburbs into San Francisco for work and not to actually connect the neighborhoods within Oakland.
Yeah.
So a dense working class part of East Oakland just got left out of the whole plan.
Mm-hmm. And now, as you've been reporting, a group of neighbors has decided to try and do something about that.
Right. This is the San Antonio Station Alliance. Everybody calls them SASA.
Mm-hmm.
And it started early in the pandemic with people who already knew each other from the neighborhood realizing they should show up to a regional planning meeting together. And it kind of snowballed from there.
Mm.
So they built a website, made flyers, even started a YouTube channel. And their outreach has brought in a wave of interested emails from locals.
Mm-hmm. What's the pitch? So, what is their argument for why the region should spend money building a brand new station there now?
Their argument is really about equity and about what's already sitting there waiting to be connected. You have the existing BART tracks. You have Amtrak's Capital Corridor line running right nearby. And there's also talk of a second BART tunnel under the bay someday that could also connect through the spot. So the idea is that this is one of the cheapest possible places to add a station because so much of the infrastructure already exists.
So I know you spoke with one of the organizers of SASA, Sarah Rowley, a former teacher at a nearby OUSD school, about what it means for just day-to-day life in San Antonio, that it's so removed from BART.
Passing over this neighborhood has really had some serious consequences for us, like in the death by 1,000 cuts sort of way, right? Like car maintenance, paying for insurance, driving to the BART station, taking very long bus rides. Before I used to work at the elementary school, attendance was an issue for our students because a lot of times students were housing insecure. And so maybe they had to spend the night over at a cousin's house across town. How did they get to school then, right? Taking a long, slow bus ride is kind of a chore for families. And especially if you're like a middle school age kid or a high school age kid, wouldn't taking the BART be a fun option to get to school? I would think so.
And Jose, I know from your reporting that it is not just transit nerds like Sarah who are into this.
Yeah, and that's a part of the story that stuck with me. I talked to a woman who told me the bus just feels desolate and unsafe, especially early in the morning or late at night, and that a BART station with its lights and its staff would feel like a totally different environment, much safer. I also talked to the co-owner of a laundromat on Foothill who thinks the station would finally bring foot traffic and new customers to a struggling commercial strip. And I should also mention that there's real concern from some residents about gentrification, that the people pushing hardest for the station skew newer to the neighborhood, and longtime residents worry about being priced out if the area suddenly gets hot.
That tension is important to name. This isn't a story where everyone agrees.
Not at all, even if it sounds nice to get a new station. And there are also just transit policy skeptics. Some people say that adding a station between two existing ones will slow down the whole line. And the skeptics point out that BART and Muni are both under real financial strain right now, arguing that's exactly why you shouldn't spend money on a brand new station when the agencies are struggling with what they have to keep current service running.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good moment to flag. That financial strain is its own story that you've been covering. You know, there's a regional sales tax measure on the ballot this fall that BART and AC Transit and Muni are all counting on.
Yeah, totally. So keep that in your back pocket because it's the backdrop to this whole conversation that this is happening against. Nobody's pretending that a new station gets built overnight or even necessarily if it gets built at all.
Let's stay in dreamland for a second here. Let's get to the fun part. This month, this idea moved from petitions and PowerPoints into something you can actually picture. Tell me about what the design students have been doing.
Yeah, so there was a class this past spring at the California College of the Arts and Architecture Studio where a professor decided this would be the perfect real-world project for his students. Not because anyone hired them to design an actual station, but because it let them dig into a project that actual Oakland residents care deeply about and imagine it without the constraints of a client or a fixed budget.
Very cool. What did they come up with?
Some genuinely striking stuff. For example, there's a creek buried underneath 14th Avenue called Brooklyn Creek. It's culverted, totally hidden, paved over, and some of the students proposed literally tearing up part of the road and daylighting it. Bringing the creek back up to the surface, giving it room to spread out into the marsh that can absorb floodwater with little pedestrian bridges crossing over it.
Yeah, this one was really interesting to me too. Why were they building that into a design for a transit station?
Because they also did serious flood research. They found that this area is genuinely at risk over the next few decades, squeezed between a creek that could overflow and rising sea levels on the other side from the freeway down toward the water. So the pitch was, why don't we go beyond designing a station, but design the whole neighborhood around it to handle water better? And, you know, this is the type of flood planning that the city will have to do over the next 20 to 40 years anyway. So why not create an awesome new neighborhood amenity around it too?
You know, I have to say some of their drawings are also just extremely visually beautiful. They've got this vision of a restored creek with grasses and birds and kids playing with it. Just the way that they've brought it to life is very captivating. I really urge listeners to go see the renderings in Jose's story. I think you'll be really captivated by them.
Yeah, art can make a difference. And they're also thinking about this practically at the same time as well. Other students designed waterfront housing into their vision. Long, several-story buildings angled to help protect the shoreline, which could also hold thousands of new residents.
Wow.
To me, they look like a Zaha Hadid-type architecture that you would find on the shores of a modern southern Spanish city like Valencia or something. And there was a whole vision for the station itself as a community hub, not just a place that you could pass through. They imagined space for a grocery store, a legal clinic, a childcare center, a food pantry. There's even like a cool digital library in there. So basically it was just like, what if a transit station could also be where you got your everyday needs met?
Yeah.
In East Oakland?
Look, this is a studio class project, not an actual BART proposal. Is anybody taking this seriously?
The neighborhood advocates told me it's already changing the conversation. The lead organizer said they've gotten far more attention on social media thanks to these renderings than they normally get. People respond to actually seeing a picture in a way that they don't respond to a policy memo.
Absolutely.
And the students didn't just imagine this whole project in a vacuum. They did walking tours of the neighborhood several times, actually. And the SASA organizers came in and presented their own research they'd been working on for years on the community's history directly to the class. And Sarah Rowley, the SASA organizer we heard from earlier, specifically talked about how much it meant to her and the other organizers to see these incredibly beautiful, imaginative renderings.
There was almost a hunger to see a vision for a community like this. It knocked me back on my feet to feel that love, for what the students came up with. Because, like I said, there were very interesting ideas, very visually compelling ideas. At the final studio critique, Victor Flores, our BART director, showed up just at the very end. And we walked over to the BART station plan and saw the renderings of the people playing and the food trucks and the pop-up vendors. And I swear, both he and I got a little misty-eyed. We were so happy to see such a thing. So if a grizzled old lady and a BART director could get a tear in their eye, I think that shows how much people are interested in seeing a positive vision of the future.
So, Jose, where does this leave things? Is a station actually going to get built?
Nobody's promising that just yet, but it has a good chance of happening someday, I think. The idea has picked up some verbal support from regional planners as part of a bigger, longer-term plan for a new Bay Area rail tunnel, but that's still a plan with a lot of steps left.
Yeah.
And what you have right now is momentum, a community that organized itself from scratch, a growing base of supporters, and now literally pictures of what their neighborhood could look like if this ever happens.
It's a nice reminder that even the biggest, slowest moving infrastructure dreams start often with somebody just drawing on a napkin, or in this case, drawing a marsh full of birds.
Exactly. Whether or not it ever gets built, I think it's worth knowing that this is what people in this neighborhood in East Oakland are imagining for themselves. In fact, I think this sense of empowerment is what Rowley and the team have taken from the work so far.
I'm shocked and humbled to learn just how much using your voice as a citizen can do. Nothing in this world was, dropped in from a UFO or dropped in from heaven. Like, people had to advocate for it, and people had to build it, and people had to push and work towards building these things. And you can, citizen, I'm pointing at you, you can be one of those people.
Jose Fermoso, thank you for bringing us this reporting.
Thanks, Destiny.
That's this week's episode of Oaklandside 510. You can find all the stories we talked about today and all of our other recent reporting at oaklandside.org. Sign up for our daily newsletter to get our reporting delivered straight to your inbox. If you haven't already, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I always love reading those. There's been some great ones lately. This episode was produced by Mark Nieto. On behalf of our entire newsroom, thank you for showing up for Oakland. We'll see you next week.